You are listening to audio from the Decidedly podcast. This episode is a highlight clip from this week's full episode. To listen in on the complete conversation, see the show notes for the link to the complete show. You can help us out by leaving us a 5-star review wherever you listen to podcasts. We appreciate every bit of your support. I'm Morgan McKittrick, your producer, and this is Decidedly.
Everything from now on that happens in my life is 100% my responsibility. It's all on me, right? I can no longer blame other people, present, past, future for my current circumstances. I think I used to say this all the time, but I wasn't living it. Right. So I would go on a date and then say, oh, that guy is, a piece of shit, whatever. Like, he's the reason why I feel this way. Or he was doing this no, like, it was all me. I was the common denominator.
Interesting. Yeah, you could blame. That's a really good point. I think I overlook a lot is there are certain relationships that we've had in life that they're major relationships. So we could blame for big problems or persistent problems.
Right.
But we can blame small relationships for small problems, right? That guy that you went on a date with and it ended poorly, right? That's not gonna ruin your life, but even if you let it ruin your week or your day, or I was a jerk to my mom on the phone last night, but that's because that date didn't go well on Tuesday, right? Whatever it is,
exactly.
You could do that on
there's a ripple effect.
Yeah, that victim mentality is going to be both big and small.
Yeah, and like when you don't close a client or something, right? It's like, oh, that person.
Well, that's not my fault.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, they weren't the right fit. They sucked.
That's different.
Yeah,
but it's like
different.
Maybe it was your messaging, right? Maybe it was you didn't, approach the sales from their perspective, right? It becomes so personal.
That's a really tempting one that I see for a lot of business owners.
Yeah.
Well, they just didn't get it,
Right.
Like they didn't sign up because they just didn't get it, or they don't care about the value of this thing that I'm selling.
Exactly.
Yeah, I had a manager early on in my career that was really pretty wise about stuff like that. And there was somebody who came back from a sales call and it didn't go well. And he goes, well, how did it go? And he said, oh, those people are idiots, and he goes, as long as you continue to look at things that way, you're never going to grow, and you've got to reflect on what could you have done differently? What did you do that could have been better? And those people might be idiots. They might be idiots.
That's not going to help you.
But if you stop and end it there, you've lost that opportunity of self-reflection to look at, how do I grow and what choices do I make to improve?
That exists. It exists in so many areas of life. I'll hear people do it at jiu-jitsu. They'll be like, oh, well, he's just so flexible. Or that guy, oh, he's just so strong.
Yeah.
Well, he's really young. What? You lost. Like, maybe he's better.
Maybe you're not good.
Yeah.
You're not good at it.
I'm not only, like, there are weight divisions, and to a degree there are age divisions, but both of those can go away, right? Because older people can compete down in age, and you can compete in open class, which means you're competing without weight divisions. So there's almost no barriers, but there's certainly not flexibility and style. And
there's not a flexibility class.
There's not a strength class. There's not, well, you bench 250, so you got to go up. Yeah. No, that doesn't exist.
That's funny.
Yeah. What other ways do you see business owners applying this mindset in an unhealthy way to their own disadvantage?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. The blaming clients thing is a huge one, right? Of, oh, they don't get my vision, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, maybe you're just not good at what you're doing, right? And it's not translating properly. Team management is huge. There are so many bad CEOs out there, and it's not because they don't have a clear vision. They don't know how to lead teams, right? Teams is just relationships, right?
Yeah.
How many times do I see, burnout from team members, right? Because there's this huge disconnect between what vision you're trying to communicate to your team and your team members following through on that, right? If you don't feel comfortable and safe in relationships, how are you going to communicate that to your team members? How are you going to deliver criticism, right, without getting so overly offended? Blaming team members for things that maybe you could have improved in your delivery, right? In helping people actually understand what you're trying to say. This happened to one of my clients. She had a boss who just kind of disappeared for a few months, and then 4 months later came back and acted so surprised at her day-to-day tasks. But the boss wasn't there, right, to see it develop into this routine in the first place, right? And so how can it be the fault of the employee if the person who's supposed to be the leader, right, isn't even aware of what's going on? So the problem isn't that they made a mistake, right? It's how they perceive that mistake, in this case, deflecting blame onto the other person. That's not going to fly if you're going to run a long-term team, right? Because people are going to mess up. They're going to make mistakes. And unless you can really take back your power and feel comfortable owning up to your own part of this, which a lot of it does come from, childhood trauma, it's going to be very, very difficult. You can have all the communication strategies in the world. You could read 5 books, right, on specific tactics and tools of how to speak to people. But if you can't keep your cool in the heat of the moment, it's just spaghetti on the wall, right? You need to, truly be connected with yourself on a deeper level in order to be able to use those tools. I have a rule with, I lead a team myself, right, about 6 people. And I saw some guy post this online, and since then I've really incorporated this. Any success that happens in the business is because of my team members, right? They're the ones that made it happen. Yeah. But if something goes wrong, that's on me, right? Because clearly I didn't communicate it in a certain way for it to be done, right? So, and as a leader, I have to be willing to be vulnerable with these types of situations, because I cannot risk burning out my team members just because, Gloria can't take a little bit of heat, right? When something goes wrong.
Thanks for making the great decision to listen in to this week's episode highlight. If you want more of what you just heard, see the show notes for the full episode. As always, for the latest decision-making tips, find us on decidedlypodcast.com or on Instagram @decidedlypodcast. And be sure to sign up for our weekly newsletter from the link in the show notes. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review as well. We read all of your comments, so if you learned some decision-making tips today, let us know. Until next time, this is Decidedly. Insights, advice, and comments provided by Sean Smith, Sanger Smith, and speakers identified as part of the Decidedly podcast should not be considered recommendations. Speakers not identified as members of Decidedly are expressing their opinion, and their statements should not be construed as reflecting the views of the Decidedly team. This podcast is produced solely for informational purposes, not personalized advice.